Hey Dylan. Oh hey, what's up man? Dude, I'd love to get a pair of these, but I'm just curious, man. Why so much? I mean, it looks pretty simple. Oh, you think so? Alright, well, I'd be glad to show you. But honestly, man, what's way more important than any of these supplies and what you're really paying for from an artist is all of the years of experimentation, all of the trial and error, all of the blood, sweat, and tears that really goes into learning a craft in order to make it look simple. Hey, what's going on guys? Dylan DeJesus here. Welcome back for another video. Today we're going to be talking all about things that annoy sneaker customizers. Now this is a series that we went ahead and opened up to you guys over on our Instagram, and these are some of the best submissions that we saw. Working with yellow, literally the hardest color out there to paint, even if you go ahead and do some type of paint buildup technique, or if you make the switch from paintbrush to airbrush, which I do think makes things easier for you no matter what. This is still the trickiest color to actually pull off and make totally solid. DM requests like, do you do customs? Enzo, I hope this is actually how you respond back to people, but funny enough for me, this isn't the case for every artist. I happen to have custom footwear in the title of my business, and if you actually take a look through my Instagram, it's 99% full of nothing but custom footwear. There's a few other art pieces here and there, but if somebody actually goes out of their way to take a look through the feed and then still go out of their way to ask if I actually do customs, that's always pretty funny. When we plan out a customer's whole design just for them to ghost, now this is something that every single artist has to go through, and eventually it becomes a little bit like a badge of honor because you have to learn the hard way when it comes to this. I think that a lot more artists need to charge some type of deposit upfront before even beginning any type of mock-up work. This way you know it is in fact a serious inquiry coming from this potential client. It can be as small as 10% of the quoted price for the project, but at least now both parties will be pot committed, nobody will be wasting anybody's time, and this is also why I think it's super important to try to really build out a nice expansive portfolio. This way, if you have anybody who is potentially interested in just window shopping, they're not looking to submit a deposit yet, at least you can show them a lot of stuff without committing your time to doing a complete mock-up just for them to leave you in the dust. Too thin running down the side of the bottle when you try to pour it. Everybody ready to be triggered? Let's do it. Too thin is definitely one of those products you need to get the dispensing twist caps. Having someone drop the shoes, I made them as soon as I hand them over. This has to be every customizer's worst nightmare. Picture this scene. You spend an entire week on a project, countless hours, you're super happy finally being done, you love the turnout of the shoes, you're ready to go ahead, meet up with the client, you drive to the drop-off location, show them, open the box, client loves them. As soon as you actually hand them over, the client drops them onto the concrete. There's a huge scuff on your artwork. Oh boy, what would you do as an artist? I'd be very curious to see how everyone would handle that situation because I don't know, I think everybody might handle that a little bit differently, but that is an absolute nightmare scenario. The dreaded tape residue. Nothing worse than finishing the upper of a project, thinking you're completely done, ready to pull back that tape and hopefully reveal that pearly white midsole, and then you see a bunch of tape residue. Couple quick points here. You want to try to find a tape that's going to leave behind the least amount of residue for you. I like to use Pro Tape's crepe paper for my soles, and then Scotch 2060 tape for my midsoles, and then definitely making sure that you could pick up a glue and residue eraser if you ever do run into that tape residue. This is going to save you a lot of time. I used to try to acetone it off or use some type of other cleaner like a Goo Gone, but this little tool right here is going to save the day for you. 70% of the custom sneaker ASMR videos, woo-wee, if you go ahead and take a quick scroll through TikTok, boy oh boy, some of the stuff you might see on there in the custom sneaker niche is absolutely crazy, especially when it comes to just showing some close-ups of painting on toe boxes. You will see a ton of paint being applied, and unfortunately, when you apply too much paint on one layer, there's just no way that the paint can flex anymore. There's no way that shoe is gonna have any type of durability to it. It's gonna crack right away, so definitely Always make sure you're doing nice thin layers when it comes to painting your panels. Powdery duller, this is the worst. Also, we don't even need this anymore, just use Liquid Kicks matte finish at the end. When I tell myself I don't need to strain my paint for a quick job and then the airbrush clogs on me, what was supposed to be a quick job, something that should only take 10 seconds or so, quickly can become a nightmare where you have to break apart your airbrush, find the clog, clean it, put it back together, and it's all because you didn't want to take the time to strain your paint properly. This is also where it definitely comes in handy to have a drawer full of airbrush ready paints. This way these are already strained and ready to go, but the temptation is definitely real to pour paint straight from the bottle into your airbrush. But remember, it should still always be thinned and strained out, and this is going to save you some major headaches down the line. Getting paint on your fingers without noticing and then touching the midsole. This always takes me back to being a kid. I probably held my pen really goofy, I wasn't doing it correct, but I would always end up with a bunch of pen ink somehow on this outside of my hand, and then I would end up getting it all over my notebook paper. So now, when you're customizing shoes, you definitely want to make sure that you have a nice clean work area. You don't spill any paint anywhere that you could actually get it smeared onto your fingers or onto your hand and then end up on a surface on the shoe that you're trying to keep that factory white or something like that. So definitely take note of your surrounding area. When clients complain about the price being more than the actual shoe, now imagine going up to a super talented canvas artist and telling them that their artwork should be based off the canvas that they're working on. Typically, a canvas is going to be a lot cheaper than a lot of the base shoes that we happen to work on as customizers. And so the price of a project isn't completely determined by the canvas that we happen to be working on. What you're really paying for is the expertise and know-how to actually work on this canvas. You're not just purchasing another pair of shoes from somebody, you're purchasing artwork. It just happens to be that shoes are our canvas. The good old, I'll let you know. You know what? That reminds me. I'm still waiting on every single person who's ever said this. When you can't mix the same color twice, this is definitely a frustrating situation that I'm sure everybody has experienced in some capacity. There's a few different ways that you could go about trying to avoid this. I know of quite a few artists who actually like to write down their recipes or their custom mixtures for colors they know they'll want to use again down the line. Or if you like planning for the future, what you can do is certainly try to make more of the paint that you might need for the current project that you're going to be working on. At some point, you're going to use that color again down the line. You just need to find a way to store it, whether it's in an extra paint bottle, some type of airtight container. This way that paint's going to stay nice and fresh for you. But yeah, not being able to make that perfect custom shade of a color can definitely be frustrating. When you get to the point where the Angelus bottles become impossible to open. Listen, if you've never ended up with a blister right here from trying to open a bunch of old paint bottles throughout the day, consider yourself lucky. So those are some of the most common things that we experience as artists on a daily basis. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Please be sure to go ahead and give it a like if you haven't already. Make sure you guys are subscribed, and everybody get out there and just create.